Hello and welcome back to the Basel Pod. I'm Sam Basel, joined alongside Michael DeRosa, and it's Sunday. It's March. That means we are doing 2025 NCAA Tournament Tiers. DeRosa, I hope you're doing well. I have to admit, if I seem off my game, if I seem a little distracted, it's because I'm still trying to wrap my head around John Cena's heel turn last night. I don't know if you're a big wrestling guy, but that was, a pretty major moment. But otherwise, how you doing?
Not a huge wrestling guy. I am familiar. But I guess my heel turn would be, since I am the age of 22 now, I don't need to care about wrestling since I'm not 4. So we're good there. I'm still trying to wrap my head around Tank Davis in the boxing match being allowed to take a knee and not losing a point.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's a knockdown. He got hit. He took a knee so he could wipe the grease off his face because his hair was falling in his face. You can't do that. You can't do that. That's not how it works. So I guess the world of sports entertainment and combat sports were really stupid last night because these happened within like an hour of each other.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like boxing, right? I'm not one of those guys where, I think boxing is like worse than how it used to be. I mean, I understand like on a macro sense, like they're kind of in a bit of trouble sometimes when it comes to booking these fights, like in comparison to like the UFC and stuff like that. But I always feel like when you have a big fight like that, like it kind of needs to be not only a good fight but like a win for boxing, right? And I felt like people felt like calling that match a draw is not much of a win for boxing, right?
Yeah. I agreed with the decision. If aside from the knockdown, which it should have been a knockdown, then Roach should have won. But since that didn't happen, which it should have, and if he appeals it, I'm not going to be mad at all. He should. It was pretty even. So I want to give Roach was awesome and Tank Davis is fun, but yeah, and I was just playing about the WWE thing. You can care about whatever you want, even if I guess you're still the age of 13. More power to you, though.
No, dude.
Want to remember the good old days.
I get it. But let's get into our NCAA tournament tiers here. So this is what we finished up with on the show last week, I should say. A couple more teams added to the locks category. A couple teams moving around the bubble. And this is after, redoing the numbers and seeing where everyone is. There isn't a lot of movement on the latest graphic, but there's a lot of movement I want to pitch to you. So this is what I have right now. Pretty much the only move I made on this bracket was Georgia moving up from the long shots to the bubble. But there are a few things that I wanted to ask you about, and I wasn't comfortable moving until I kind of pitched it your way. So let's start on the left side, the lock side. As you can see, it's slowly been growing, and that's by design. I feel like, as we move closer and closer to March, as we're in March now, there should be more teams that have pretty much locked in their chances of being in the NCAA tournament, and that we don't really need to talk about that much anymore because, their resumes should be all but set. There are 3 teams that we talked about last week, potentially, that had pretty solid weeks that I want to pitch to you for locks. The first one being Clemson. Clemson, they've had 6 straight wins. 3 of those wins include Duke, SMU, UNC. UNC, SMU, obviously in the long shots category. But the fact that they're on this graphic at all and Clemson got wins against them, I feel like bodes well against the resume. And, of course, they got the win against Duke, who's been a lock since the beginning of this series that we've been doing. So I was just curious on what your thoughts are on a team currently ranked, top 30 in KenPom and in the net.
I think at this point, with a week left in the season, we have to be more aggressive on the locks, and we probably should have had Clemson as a lock a week or 2 ago, for being real. Yeah, they're not missing the damn tournament. Lock that bitch in.
All right, and then the next one I've got, again, I think you're going to have the same thought here. Louisville, also they've won 7 straight wins, all within the top 50 KenPom.
Yeah, they're not missing the tournament.
Great. BYU. They've won. They've had some good games. They took down Arizona recently. are you comfortable throwing them in there as well?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. BYU a lock. Anybody in this fairly comfy category, or maybe even lower, that had like a really great past 2 weeks that you feel like we should be throwing in there? I mean, New Mexico, maybe Utah State.
It's definitely not Utah State. They got
definitely
whooped.
Not Utah State. Yeah,
they got whooped. I mean, they're going to make the tournament still, but like they didn't have a good weekend. Is what I'm going to say there.
Mm-hmm.
UCLA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pitch it to me.
I couldn't tell you what they've done recently, but like on the bracket matrix, they're a 6th. They're 28th in KenPom. Not bad. They did just lose to Purdue, but I mean, they've got 2 games left. They're 28th in KenPom. They're not going to take a bad loss. They go at Northwestern, then home to USC. They've got some good wins in the non-conference, particularly the Arizona win at Oregon's aging pretty well. They've home to Wisconsin, which is aging really well. Beat Michigan State, which not many Big Ten teams have done. They went at Indiana and won. I just can't at this point. They got 2 games left. At worst case, if they lose their next 3 games, which is Northwestern, USC, then in the Big Ten tournament, they're still a tournament team.
Yeah,
that's my pitch.
I mean, and look, I know you didn't really throw them in there, but they beat Gonzaga, which I know you don't. You it's a team that you don't like, but it's a team that numbers really like.
100%.
So yeah, all right, let's throw them in. UCLA, welcome to the locks. I think we're up to like 20, 23, 24 locks.
Yeah.
In total at this point. Anybody else in the fairly comfy category or below that you feel like deserve a shot? I feel like in another universe we'd be talking about Creighton, but I feel like they've kind of been.
So there were 3 teams I was thinking about mentioning. All that I think we could very much put in the again, only a week left in the regular season at this point. It was going to be Creighton, UConn, and the team I was going to mention first, Memphis. Just looking at Memphis again, I mean, they have 3 games left. They're playing UAB today. That's going to be a tough game, but like, just looking at their resume, I mean, the win over UConn on a neutral, the win over Michigan State on a neutral, which is aging really well. They beat Missouri really early in the season. They beat Ole Miss. Like, I guess if they lose their next 3, like they're probably maybe on the outside looking in, but like that's just not going to happen. They've lost 2 league games all season.
Yeah.
They have some like greasy losses. The Temple loss doesn't look great. Wichita State, nor does the Arkansas State loss. But I mean, on the season, they're 23-5 with multiple pretty big wins. I can't really see Memphis missing the tournament.
All right. Yeah. So in total, that gives us, I think this might be the biggest week for locks, because in total this would add 7 locks. I want to talk about UConn for a second because I feel like they're a team that's been on this graphic the entire time we've been doing this series, but this might be the first time we've actually brought them up on the show because they've really not done much. Like, they did enough to get put on the graphic when I made the first one, but then they haven't really done anything that spectacular or that tragic to move anywhere, right? I mean, if you look at their schedule, I mean, they've kind of just gone back and forth, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. And, you know, the only thing that really kills them is that Seton Hall overtime loss in overtime, which is really bad. But then they kind of beefed up their resume before that, though, with a win over Marquette, a win over Creighton, and then they just beat Nova, Georgetown, and Providence. And then they lost to St. John's in that span too, but St. John's just clinched the Big East regular season title. Yep. So, you know, with that resume, though, even though we might think they're locks, I mean, are there any kind of like warning signs about when they actually get into the tournament, like about how far they're able to go?
Oh God, 100%. Their defense is legitimately bad. They're a bad defensive team. Dan Hurley still hasn't come around to the concept that his team fouls a lot. He still thinks they're getting every single game. He thinks they're unlucky. I think he thinks the universe is out to get him. No, Dan, your team just hand checks every fucking time. They don't defend without fouling. It's on roster, how you're coaching them, whatever. Your team fouls every time. Every time. It's not a coincidence. They don't defend the 3-point line particularly well. They run teams off 3-point line, but when those teams get open looks, they're very open and they're knocking them down. Yeah, they can't stop anybody. And this UConn team is fairly soft compared to the last few UConn teams. Like Cam Spencer was a hard-nosed dude. Tristan Newton was a dude. Andre Jackson was a dude. Those guys were dudes. This team is pretty soft. They're pretty soft, but mainly it's the defense is just legitimately bad.
Yeah. For a top 50 team in the country, I mean, I think they have, if you're just looking at their KenPom stats, I mean, the disparity between their offense and their defense is actually insane. They're a top 15 offense, a sub 100 defense.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So I see what you're saying, and I feel like that's gonna, that could be something that actually kills them in the tournament. But yeah, so all right, let's throw them in a lock for now. But I mean, I feel like by the time we get to our bracket show in a couple of weeks, we're not going to be super happy with them.
No.
Anybody in the bubble category that you feel like could move into fairly comfy? Anybody that you feel like had a pretty solid week?
Yeah. I think it's time. Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt's going to move up. The win over Missouri. I mean, they hit Tyler Nickel hits that 3 to send the game to overtime with it was definitely an opportunity for Missouri to foul, and they didn't. And Nickel hits the 3. Then AJ Hogarth just kind of took over that game late. That's another huge win for Vanderbilt. I think they've secured. I think, yeah, I think. I mean, they're going to dance. So I move Vanderbilt up.
Yeah, and especially because they have two really good, really strong for your resume and also winnable by them opportunities left in their regular season, and that being Arkansas on Tuesday, Georgia on Saturday. Could a loss to either of those teams hurt them?
Sure, but I don't think it'll hurt them enough to get them from where I believe they are now to all the way out of the tournament. So,
cool.
Sure, losing at home to Arkansas is not going to look great, but it's just going to be a Q2 loss. That's not going to bump you down 8 spots to get you out of the tournament.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so let's put Vandy in the fairly comfortable category. One team that I wanted to talk about moving from the long shots to the fairly comfy category. I know we've had our reasonings, but it's just at this point I'm I don't want to be the guy that makes it unfair and just takes completely takes a small conference bias into account. But I mean, UC San Diego has not lost a game since January 18th, and I know that the thought process is they are in a conference where whoever they lose to in the tournament could just completely destroy their tournament chances.
Yeah.
But any team that hasn't lost a game in a month and a half is at this point in the season is come on. Right?
Yeah. Fuck me, excuse me. Move them out of the bubble for me.
Out of the bubble. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we can go fairly comfy just because I think the committee would find a way to keep them out, especially because that would steal a bid. You'd steal probably other bids. And if it's between UCSD and Indiana, we know who's going to Dayton. Let's be real. But yeah, they should be on the bubble. They're a bubble team, and frankly, I hope they make the tournament because they are better than most teams we're going to talk about on the bubble.
Yeah. So viewers, listeners, know that we're putting them in the bubble not because we think they're a bubble team, but because
they should be a bubble team. They don't lose.
Yeah, we want them to be fairly comfy, teetering on locks, maybe. We wish, but we're putting them on the bubble because we feel like the committee could find a way to not get them there. Anybody else in the bubble? I wish I had the opportunity to move Arkansas up a little bit, but I feel like they kind of did not have a great week. I don't know if you'd agree with me or not there. They dropped. I just feel like it's losing by 19 to South Carolina is rough. Beating Texas and Missouri, great. Losing to South Carolina by a lot, not.
I got a trade I want to make between the long shots and the bubble.
All right.
1 for 1. I think we moved Texas down, especially because they got whooped by Georgia yesterday.
Texas to long shots.
Yeah, Since February 5th, they've won one game. That would be 1-6 in that stretch.
Wow.
They beat Kentucky, but I mean, they're 16-13 on the season. Like, okay, great. Non-conference, their best win is St. Joe's. Okay, great. They had some good wins in the beginning of conference play. Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Missouri. But since, January 29th, their only wins are an injured Kentucky team and LSU. I just don't see how at this point, I don't think they're a tournament team. They have to go at Mississippi State and win to like get back and like, okay, we can talk about them, but I don't know if they're going to do it. So I move them down. And in turn, and I can't believe I'm saying this, we have to move Indiana up.
Wow. Okay.
They're not good. Like, they're not. But they just beat Purdue.
Yeah.
Like,
that's tough.
They won another huge game. It looks like at this point, if the season ended today, they're like a 50-50 to make the tournament, which means they have to be on the bubble. They're not good enough to be there, by the way. Like, UC San Diego is 5 times better than Indiana. But you got to throw Indiana there, man.
I mean, they also beat Michigan State in East Lansing. I mean, I know that's like they had a loss in between the, that win over Purdue. Like they lost to UCLA. But again, they lost to UCLA, who we want to move into the locks. So, it's tough. So Texas down to long shots, Indiana to the bubble. Correct?
Yeah.
All right. Long shots, I want to add a little, just some thoughts. George Mason, I think I'm ready to move out. I believe they lost to Duquesne.
Yeah.
Earlier this week or yesterday.
Yeah, I believe it was yesterday.
That's not good. That's not good. Sorry, Mason, but I think it's done for you. I think VCU
it's turning your bust.
VCU is the team to beat in the Atlantic 10. So Mason's going to come off this graphic. Anybody else that you feel that you're feeling taken off here or adding on?
Move from bubble to long shots. Wake the Nation.
Wake.
Yeah, get them out of here. I mean, they can't beat anybody big, and they've lost some dumb games these past couple weeks. Like, they're not dancing. They're not dancing. But they're not dancing. I don't know if the ACC is on that Crown contract or not, but it looks like they're getting ready to learn NIT, buddy.
Yeah, I feel like we're all still trying to figure out what's going on with that Crown tournament. Because I know like there's the whole thing, right, where like a team can't take an NIT bid if they're in a conference affiliated with it, right?
I think like there are 2 Crown auto bids for 3 leagues, which I think is Big 10, Big 12, Big East, I think. And you have to accept the Crown bid if you get the auto bid. I don't know how they worked that out, but you have to accept it. Yeah.
Big East, Big 10, Big 12, 2 automatic qualifiers from each of those conferences will enter, as well as 10 at-large teams from the pool of teams that did not qualify for the NCAA tournament. So it looks like those 10 at-large teams will probably be the ones that have to because they might get invitations to both then in that situation.
You know what the best part about the Crown is, Sam?
What?
Do you know when the Crown starts?
It starts kind of late, right?
The first day of the Crown is March 31st. That's like Elite 8 weekend. Imagine, it's like, oh man, we're getting ready to watch Sweet 16 Elite 8 games. And then the Crown shows up. Who wants to wait that long to watch their team that they haven't seen in a month, whose season has likely been over for 2, playing the Crown? Yeah, that. Or imagine you're let's say like a team on the bubble here. Let's say a Xavier, or let's say a Texas, whoever, right? An Ohio State. Let's say they find a way to miss the tournament. You're going to be sad, right? You're going to be like, man, we had so much hope. We got to this point and we just lost it. Now you have to wait 15 days to watch them play in an event called the Crown. Who wants that? At that point, you want to move on to next season. You're like, who are our portal targets we're looking at? Who is this? Who's this? Let's go to next season. No, bitch. No. You're going to Vegas. You're getting ready to learn the crown. You're playing basketball in April, baby.
Yeah, that feels like, I'm sure there's going to be fans that are going to be happy about that, but there's going to be just as many that are going to be frustrated with that. I mean, the real source of frustration that I think is going to cause a change to that is going to be the coaches, right?
100%.
Like, there's no way a coach is going to want to stop their season for a month, the entire month of March, and then pick it back up in April.
Hey, that's during portal season. You got to be.
How many guys? Yeah, how many guys are already going to have hit the portal by then?
Yeah.
And are you going to be playing while hitting? Are you going to be playing while, in the portal?
Yeah, you're game planning. You're game planning for like 20 minutes. Then you look over and it's like, oh, hey, this kid wants to have a visit. You need to get him on campus now, or he's going to go somewhere else and commit, and you need him for next year. So it's like, what the fuck do you do?
Yeah, and my timing could be off, but I feel like some guys might have already made portal decisions by then too, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
The very early deciders are, probably going to be yeah.
Yeah. So look, not trying to hate on the crown, but I mean, maybe we are a little bit.
You need someone to host your college basketball crown themed podcast right here.
Yeah, we got it. But we have some questions. We like postseason basketball, but we want it to make sense a little bit. Should we start working? Should our next show of the Tournament Tiers be crown bound?
I'm down. I'm down.
All right, maybe we'll find a way to factor that in. But I think with, again, like we said, we're getting towards the end of the season, so a lot of movement is, there's not much more that can be had, especially with conference tournaments beginning this week. I mean, and by the way, a lot of our House of College Hoops writers are participating in the Jerome, so make sure you keep an eye out for their Jerome picks coming out on Monday. But like I said, not much expected movement with most teams only playing 2, maybe 3 games. I mean, that's not really happening, but 2 games left in the regular season. Anybody else that you feel like is in the mix here?
Yeah, so there were a couple of thoughts, but West Virginia, what do we do with
I was hoping you'd say them. Yep.
Yeah. I think we move them up to fairly comfy, but I am not 100% sure. So
let's see. Let's take a look at the bubble. So there are a couple teams at West Virginia I have behind in my that I have a little bit lower in my tier ranking, my behind the scenes. I mean, a couple teams that are below them that are also in the same tier as them. Northwestern, Oklahoma, Indiana.
Northwestern above fucking.
It's just the way the numbers shake out. I mean, Northwestern is just slightly better in the. They just look a little bit better in the.
Northwestern.
Oh, you know what? Northwestern and Virginia I have tied. I'm sorry. Northwestern and Virginia are pretty much the same team according to the amalgamation of all the numbers that I've been using.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, still though, I mean, Northwestern, Oklahoma, all these teams are kind of at or slightly above West Virginia by a lot of the numbers. So would you be comfortable moving those teams with them, or do you feel like West Virginia just still has more? They still have the better opportunities at the end of the season to kind of try and get them up into the fairly comfy category.
I think their resume kind of speaks, just some of the quality wins they have, I think really get them into this conversation. In the early season tournament, they went out there and beat Arizona and Gonzaga. Those wins have aged really well. That they were fairly competitive for a large stretch yesterday. Then BYU just kind of pantsed them. But they also have that win at Kansas. They have the wins over Iowa State, at Cincinnati. I don't know. They're not a team I'd be confident in.
2 wins against Cincinnati.
Cincinnati stinks. But they're not a team I'd be confident in picking, but the numbers aren't great, but they have some really, really good wins that I think would get them to me in the fairly comfy category, but not sold on it. But I can't see them missing the tournament at this point. I don't know what they'd have to do to miss the tournament. I think a lot would really have to go wrong. there'd have to be like 3 or 4 bid stealers, and they'd have to lose out. And then like other bubble teams like Arkansas, Xavier, Nebraska would have to pick up huge wins. That I think for now, I think they're in the fairly comfy category, but I'm not 100% certain.
How about a loss to UCF on Saturday?
That would definitely start to keep them back in the bubble.
That'd get the conversation going.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think they're in the fairly comfy category for now.
All right, let's do it. Let's move WVU into the fairly comfy category. And so with that, I think, the longer we go, oh, anybody else, the more we try to tend to overthink it a little bit. So I think with West Virginia, let's kind of close it out for this week's tournament tiers. We're getting there. Conference tournaments are on their way by the next tournament tiers, which will probably be the last one of the year. We will probably have a couple teams that are already in the tournament. They'll have punched their ticket, so that'll be really interesting to see. DeRosa, where can we find your stuff?
Yeah, at MD the Dream on Twitter, everything college basketball, Road to the Garden, whole lot of stuff coming up, and on Threads at Michael's Threads account.
Great. And everything college basketball there, you guys are going to be streaming today. Could you give us a little bit more detail on what time you'll be hopping on, and maybe a little preview of what you guys plan to talk about today?
Yeah, a little less than an hour and a half away, breaking down all the games and then talking about some of the conference tournaments coming up. Like I know the ASUN starts today, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it starts later today. So in the meantime, I got to get my Jerome picks in. But just previewing all the action or recapping all the action that happened the last couple of days. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, great stuff. So make sure you keep following Michael. Make sure you follow us at all the social medias that you see down below here, because it is going to be a crazy week of college hoops. And everybody here at the House of College Hoops is here to guide you as we move closer to Selection Sunday. So for Michael DeRosa, I'm Sam Basel. This has been the Basel Podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.